But
Sure.
a team
Very
that
fair.
didn't, we go from talking about a team that lost their offensive coordinator there for a second to a team that was like glad that they didn't lose their offensive coordinator in our next game. It is the Washington Commanders with Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, Jaden Daniels, and that I'll call them an elderly team that got so lucky last season in so many games. But they got the wins in. But they are hosting the New York Giants, another just fascinating team when you think about the talent along that defensive front and on the outside with Malik Neighbors. Lots of potential with this team. Another one that's kind of hard to predict that makes the beginning of this season so interesting. What do we think about Commanders Giants here? This is a tough. I mean, the easy answer is the Commanders, but again, what gives me pause is how great that defensive front for the Giants is going to be, the improvements they've made across their entire defense. And again, they've got at the very least competency at quarterback. So if they're able to be kept in a game with whether it's Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, or if it's Jackson Dart at the end of the day, eventually what Brian Daboll hopes to transition to, I think that as long as their quarterback's able to keep them in a game, there's not really a game that you're gonna be able to affirmatively count them out because their defensive line is just that good. I'm still gonna lean Commanders in this game, but I'm curious to hear everybody else's thoughts. Does anyone have, just off the top, the Giants getting an upset in this game? Because I'd love to hear you out as a resident Commanders hater.
So I don't have them
necessarily
upset, but I think 6.5 might be a tad too much points. And I'll start off with the Commanders and why I'm not as high on them this year. And again, this to the viewership, this might come off as probably biased, but let me start off with saying that Laremy Tunsil, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's a downgrade at left tackle from what they were working with, but I think the acquisition of Laremy Tunsil was a severely overrated move for this Commanders team.
Coming from a Texans fan, with all disclosure, we
okay,
got to disclose for
but
all
again,
the unknowing.
Again, let's disclose that. But I think the national media largely probably gave the Texans a C or a D for this trade and lauded the Commanders for going to get what is quote unquote one of the best left tackles in the league. I don't think Laremy Tunsil is one of the best left tackles in the league. He is a average to below average run blocker. He leads the league in pre-snap penalties. There was a I think it was the Vikings game last year. The Texans were in field goal range. He false started 2 times in a row and took them out of field goal range. Look, say what you want. He's a great pass blocker, but it's a Band-Aid to, I think, what was a left tackle problem that I think will stay a problem with Laremy Tunsil at left tackle, not accounting for the fact that you will probably have to pay him after the season if you want to keep him. He's making a lot of money right now, too. So I just wanted to get that diatribe out of the way. But I do think that, look, this is an interdivision game. We mentioned it earlier with the Chiefs and the Chargers. These games early in the year, with the familiarity, and I think that offense has come out looking a little bit sluggish. I think 6.5 is probably too much points, especially with the front seven that the Giants have. Sure, you've got Laremy Tunsil to pass block, but I do think that Giants front four is going to be able to win some of those matchups up front. And you mentioned it in the lead-in, Pat. This Giants offense with Daboll as a play caller. Look, you got 100% healthy Malik Neighbors. I know he's banged up in training camp, but he should be good to go for week 1. Daboll is, I still think, a top-tier play caller in the NFL. And you don't have Daniel Jones doing stupid things out there anymore. You've got Russell Wilson. And we can say what you want about Russell Wilson. He's probably he's a serviceable player, and that I think that's good enough for, given the point spread, to keep them in this game. Look, these divisional games, you rarely see blowouts, unless it's when the Cowboys were good playing the Giants. But I think in totality, you don't really see a ton of blowouts. And I think this Giants seems to be motivated going into this year, probably a little bit more motivated than the Commanders. They're kind of similar to the Commanders last year in the fact that I think a lot of people wrote them off, and I think they're going to be a bit motivated with a coach that I think probably has one more year to try to not have his name on the chopping block. And I think that this week 1's going to matter for kind of setting the tone for their season. And you mentioned it too, Pat. The Commanders winning 12 games last year, they should have lost at least 2 of those just based off the luck factor. So they were probably more like a 10-win team last year. And I tie a lot of things back to my team, but the Commanders are this year's, or what the Texans were last year. A team that overachieved with a rookie quarterback, that showed a lot of flashes, made some big moves in the offseason. And sometimes it's not that easy just to roll that into the next year, and think that everything's going to be all fine and dandy. And I think this Giants team's really hungry. I do. I think that's it. I'll leave it at that.
I think you're right, Turtle. I mean, if you just look at kind of what the Giants are going to be bringing to the table in this, rolling out Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and then now throw in Abdul Carter. I mean, first off, I don't even know where you can put the bet down, but I think this is going to be the defensive unit that leads the entire NFL in sacks. And I think they're going to be able to, give fits to, an already ailing Washington Commanders offensive line. I mean, we talked about, the injury that they are going for, that they are dealing with. I forget, I believe it was Sam Cosmi that is now out for the year. I really think people should be pumping the brakes on Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt right now, especially going up against, what is going to be a very blitz-heavy, defensive front that he's going to be facing just coming out, of the gate. You have Terry McLaurin, who hasn't been practicing the entire offseason, now coming into this. I don't expect Deebo Samuel is going to be the home run hitter that is going to, or anyone that is going to be taking the top off the ball. I really think there is going to be some growing pains, with Terry McLaurin, just in terms of getting back into football shape. I mean, he hasn't been taking hits throughout the entire preseason. Not that he would have been, but he's not been out there for joint practices. He's not been out there for, in the heat with all his teammates. When you look at, you have Bill Krosky-Merritt that is going to be back there, and then he's going to be, behind Austin Eckler, who's going to be leading this backfield. It doesn't really exude a lot of confidence. I think you're really asking Jayden Daniels to do a lot with what I don't think is going to be a lot of time to work back there. And, your second option is going to be Deebo Samuel, running those kind of medium to under routes. And, I just don't see – I agree with you, Turtle. I think 6 points, 6.5, if it gets bet up, I think it's a little too much. I mean, I'm very curious to see how Russell Wilson is going to perform. And let's not forget about the Giants' backfield. I mean, Tyrone Tracy had a really good stretch last year. They add name.
Scatterbo.
Yes, yeah, they add Cam Scatterbo. I mean, I'm also curious to see, how Darren Waller is going to get trotted out there. I mean,
he's on the Dolphins.
Remember, he's
going to be Bellinger and Theo Johnson.
Okay, Theo Johnson from Penn
Darren
State.
Waller retired when the Giants asked him to run block.
That's what it was.
For
yeah,
more than 2 plays. So
yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
But he's back, and we'll get to
Miami.
Yeah, we're going to get to the Dolphins next. But
no, I think the Giants up front are going to be able to, I think, throw a lot more wrenches than, I think Jayden Daniels may be ready for in the second year. We always talk about the second year slump. And I think, with that pressure, it's going to be able to take away some of the, big throws that really made, and the Hail Mary throws. Keep in mind, they only beat the Bears last year off of a tip ball that landed when Tyreek Stevenson was dancing off the field. Pat's been calling them the luckiest team.
All of a sudden,
for
everybody on this pod's talking my language now.
Okay, stop that. We've all kind of pumped the brakes on him a little bit, but go ahead, Pat. You can take the credit.
No, we've pumped the brakes.
You want the sprinkle of credit? You can have
Pat. Take it over. But I think it's way more of a factor of the pressure that Jayden Daniels is going to be facing, especially with the injuries to the O-line coming into the season. And what I expect is, Brian Daboll telling the defensive play caller to, unload the book. We paid these guys up front for a reason. We have the names that we have for a reason. We took Abdul Carter for a reason because we didn't have the pass rush. Complement that with Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence. I mean, we'll see. I think it's going to be a very, very rough Sunday for Washington.
So I disagree. I think Washington's going to win the game. but long term, yes, I have serious concerns about Washington. I think they just took too many risks, too many flyers on guys, and let too many guys walk from a decently good team last year. And they did kind of get, bounce back years out of Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner. So I don't know. And then you lose, I think, the key piece to your run game very early in this season. So I do have concerns. I think Jaden's going to be able to run the ball pretty well this Sunday. If I had to have one concern about the Giants right now, obviously it's the secondary, but I don't know how good their run defense is going to be. I know everyone knows they have world beaters when it comes to the pass rush. Just don't know. Obviously, we love Dexter, but we'll see how the run defense is, and then we'll see how the offense is. I don't know if they'll be able to move the ball down the field as successfully as we think early on. I am a fan of Tyrone Tracy. I would say Jaden Daniels definitely scores a rushing touchdown this weekend, and he's still able to figure out a way to win this game. But yes, I definitely think you're going to come away from this game with a lot of concerns for Washington's offensive line, and then I think just a lot of flyers on regressing players defensively.
Yeah, one last point on the Commanders' defense, because I forgot to mention it when I was going on my Laramie Tunsil tirade. Last year, the Commanders, they were 24th in EPA per drive on defense, and they faced backup quarterbacks 35% of the time. And to be honest, I don't really know what they did this year to significantly improve the defense.
It seems like they just
drafted
cut corners.
They drafted Trey Amos, who I like, but again, a rookie corner. They signed Von Miller signed with them, but he's 36, and I mean, I guess their biggest ticket was Javon Kinlaw.
Who's replacing a very good Jonathan Allen.
Yeah, so I mean, who was on the team last year. So I've got major concerns about this defense. Marshawn Lattimore, I didn't like the trade last year when they did it. I think we talked about it on this very podcast where I was like, it was a very risky move to trade that type of draft capital for a guy that's injured a lot, and so far I don't think that trade's really worked out well for the Commanders. And look, the one saving grace is they do have Dan Quinn, so maybe it's one of those teams that is 25th in talent. Yeah, it's a team that's 25th in talent that plays to the 18th type, but I don't see this defense being sniffing the top half of the league, to be quite honest with you. So
I guess balancing out how good this Giants defense could be with how bad the Commanders defense, could be, I guess you say. This could be a very close game. And as much as I wanted everyone to talk me around to picking against the Commanders somehow, after all the analysis is said and done, when you have a close game, Jaden Daniels has some voodoo magic horseshoe up his ass. There's something about it where he's going to make a play, and I've learned it the hard way as a Bears fan. So if it is a close game, I'm going to take the Commanders. But I like what everybody said about this line being a little long at 6.5.
6.5, man. All the voodoo magic can happen in the world. If the Giants lose by 6, then the game could go to overtime, and Jaden Daniels has some voodoo magic and scores a touchdown to end the game. It doesn't matter. Guess what? You got 6.5. Everybody can wipe their hands clean and say that was a good handicap. And that's what I think.
I'm convinced. Giants plus 6.5 is the play.
Yeah.
I like that.
Might be one of my best bets of the weekend.
I say Jaden Daniels anytime touchdown. I'm big on that.
I like that too, Christian.
He should be running for his life, so we'll see.
Not his life.
Giants hype is worth it. Considering how skinny that guy is, I think one hit could put him out for the season. So he might be running for his livelihood just based on his frame. But that's a whole nother. Hey, I could go on anti-Jaden Daniels diatribe.
Not you much sound like a hater.
Results. Not much. I was about to say not much of his written results after the season he had last year. But hey, I'm not hating. I'm just saying facts about the guy's frame. And how it might not be a good matchup. against a Giants team that Mike said could lead the league in sacks, which very well, that could happen, but we'll see how many wins it translates to. And I think
One
that's
last
going to be
point.
go for it.
One last point. Laramie Tunsil, I can't remember what magazine, but he was named the most fashionable lineman in the NFL, and they wrote a whole article about his fashion. So do what you that information what you will. But I would like my left tackle. He can be cool with fashion, but at least run block. So you can't be the fashionist offensive lineman and not run block.
There's going to be a very
that's
healthy diet of Commanders hate between me against Jane Daniels and Turtle against Laramie Tunsil.
The second Laramie Tunsil joined the Commanders, I picked up my pitchfork with me, Pat.
You're going to get a very balanced breakfast. Of,
19 pre-snap penalties last year, Pat. 19 pre-snap penalties. I cannot wait. I hope Commanders fans watch this in the comments like, Laramie Tunsil's so good. You watch and learn. The second he false starts on a 3rd and 4 to make it 3rd and 9 and Jay Daniels gets killed, don't say I wasn't right. That's it.